What's up, everyone, and welcome back to Rob's Gaming Table. Today on the table, we have another Game of Thrones, a card game, 2nd edition video for you. We are at Millennium Games in Rochester, New York, and this video is brought to you by these people who are on your screen. They are awesome for donating to the channel and help making this video happen. If you'd like to donate, you can click the link in the description below. In this one, we got Jeff playing House of the Red Door against Kevin, playing a Martell Banner of the Wolf. Martell Wolf, classic attrition deck, I assume. I don't know if it's been made better or worse or still good over time. We'll find out here, I'm sure. And on the other side of the table, we got Greyjoy's. It looks like Naga's Ribs is the choice for House of the Red Door. It's Jeff playing basically a Drown God deck is what I gathered from watching a couple of his games and talking to him at the tournament. Not exactly watching his games, but just, you know, seeing them wrap up as he destroyed my wife in a Game of Thrones with some Drown Gods. Very strange. Alright, so we got Bastard of God's Grace, Flea Bottom, Gaston Grey, and a Dornish Fiefdom set up for the Martell player. He's doing a build orders right now that he flipped for his plot, looking for an attachment or a location. On the other side, we got Time of Plenty was flipped for the plot. And for setup, he has a Rose Road, Aaron Dampere from the core set, and a Iron Islands Fishmonger. Looks like Water Gardens is the choice for the search there off building orders. Martell player going first, according to that hand of the Kingpin there. So both these guys play locally with me in the Hamilton area, Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Actually at a Dundas at Waypoint Games. If you're in the Dundas area, check out that board game cafe. Pretty awesome store. But they traveled down the 2.5-ish hour drive, 3 hours depending on the border wait, crossing from Canada to the U.S. And we see an extra gold gain there off the Dornish Fiefdoms on the Martell side. And it looks like a Green Blood Trader, of course, coming in there to get an extra card for the Martell player. So Naga's Ribs reads, for each character in your dead pile, Naga's Ribs contributes 2 strength to your total for dominance. Reaction after a character is placed in your discard pile, move it to your dead pile. So that is a reaction that has to be triggered by the player. It's not a forced reaction. And of course, it can't be discarded because he's using it as his House with the Red Door location. But it can be blanked by Frozen Solid, which I'm sure is sitting in this Martell Wolf deck. And he brings in a Fiefdom for 2 gold, but gets a buck off of it right away here. So he already has 2 on the board, so if he can start going going forward, he's going to get 4 gold generated just off those 2 locations. So he should not have too many economy problems. And he plays that Water Gardens that he grabbed off the building orders over to the Greyjoy player for his marshalling. Quickly throws a sea tower into play and kneels it right away for some reduction. And I'm going to have to quickly look up a bunch of Drown God cards, I'm sure, during this video. I believe that's Tarl, the thrice something. I forget, but I know the Greyjoys again. All these Drown God cards. I ignored the previous Drown God cards as they came out because it wasn't really a viable thing, and I liked more of the aggro-y Greyjoy playstyle myself. But now they're getting all this passive power gain off these Drown Gods and whatnot. So probably should start paying attention. But it doesn't click with my playstyle, so I've kind of ignored them. But if people are going to start playing it now that they've kind of have a full deck that can be put together with these guys, I should probably start looking it up.
no point in swinging.
So Acolyte of the Waves is the Greyjoy character on the top there, the 2 cost, 1 strength power icon. He has an interrupt when Acolyte of the Waves is killed. You gain 1 power for your faction. Those guys, I remember. Let's see this. So it's Tarl the Thrice Drowned. He's Drowned God and Ironborn. He may you may marshal non-unique Drowned God characters from your dead pile as if they were in your hand. Wow. Okay.
Do you have any reactions? Reactions to winning? No.
So it looks like the Greyjoy player came in on an intrigue challenge with Tarl. Got hit by a Gash and Grey.
Reaction winning down?
So it looks like the dupe fell off from the Gash and Grey, sending him back to hand, and then he used the reaction off Naga's ribs to put it in the discard or the dead pile from the discard pile, and then was able to bring him back since he's Ironborn after winning dominance with Aeron Dampere. And then I think the Greyjoy player won dominance, obviously, giving him that 1 power we see there on his house card. So already turn 1, we're seeing this Drowned God synergy do some work. Of course, that Aeron Dampere. Definitely put him in my first Greyjoy decks back in the day. Every now and then I put him in. Because, yeah, you just look at your deck, you see a bunch of Ironborn, and, yeah, if you can win dominance reliably, and now with Naga's Ribs, not to mention even just Iron Throne before, sometimes it's enough. And, yeah, getting a character back out of your dead pile, even if it's just a small one, sometimes can be enough to just keep the board presence going and put pressure on your opponent. Or it makes them do wonky things in the challenge phase and maybe not be so aggressive because they really want to win dominance to prevent like an Asha Greyjoy from coming back into play. And even in that case, that's still good. All right, so we got the Bloody Flux, so nobody can be saved. The anti-Greyjoy plot, basically. Or the anti-Tyrell who plays 3 of all these big dudes that they like to dupe up and use bodyguards and whatnot. Bloody Flux is there for that. So we're seeing exchange of information here, getting the 10 cards up the top of the deck. And we're going to see the Martell player go through each card type, choose 1 to give to the Greyjoy player to put in hand. So it looks like there was 2 copies of the same event there, so for sure he's getting that. We see a King's Road chosen from locations. And it looks like Euron's in there. Also a Drowned God's Apostle, I believe. And that's who he chooses. And then we see that canceling character, the Drowned God Fanatic, the new Drowned God character, which has me kind of excited to play Greyjoy again. It seems like a good character in general Greyjoy decks, not to mention the intrigue icon on it. Seems nice. Or that intrigue and military pairing of icons is kind of rare and cheaper characters out of Greyjoy. So it looks like the Greyjoy player is going first, as chosen by the Martell player. And we see that dupe come back out on Tarl. King's Road marshaled out for the Greyjoy player. This is limited this turn. And we see Kevin in between actions across the table, getting his 4 gold from Dornish fiefdoms. And it looks like a Priest of the Drowned God marshaled in there. And over to the Martell player for his marshalling. He collects his econ of 4 gold off of his plot. And has 8 gold to work with, plus that Water Gardens, giving him a 1 discount, I believe now, 1 plot in the use pile, discount on non-character cards. So that Bastard of God's Grace still in play. We see that can work nicely. Same with the Green Blood Trader, actually, if it gets to the discard pile, off of Flea Bottom. But that Bastard of God's Grace loop off of Flea Bottom is always dirty. But we haven't seen it go yet, but he's got the pieces there. And King's Landing marshaled in there, the new neutral location. Basically allowing him to, I believe, play locations out of his discard pile. And then I think there's some way you can basically discard a location to draw a card. And another card preventing saves. We got Arya Stark out there while she's standing. You can't save characters, so after Bloody Flux gets to the used pile, she is still there, possibly, to help prevent the Greyjoy player from saving. So, see 2 anti-Greyjoy cards kind of there. But then again, I'm sure he's playing Varys, so against any faction who's duping up characters, not being able to save them from a Varys wipe is another thing Arya is good at. And he's going to marshal Gash and Grey back into play, so we're seeing that King's Landing already go to work.
Do you have any challenge transactions?
No challenge transactions.
So King's Landing does read, once per marshalling phase, you may marshal a location from your discard pile as if it were in your hand. Then it has a challenge action, kneel King's Landing, to discard 1 location from your hand to draw a card. So I guess you can play more locations with that, and then if you get kind of flooded, you're able to at least discard them and draw new cards to get through them, but it also helps you seed your discard pile to then marshal one of them during marshalling. It's kind of a cool card. Is it worth the $4? Maybe in some factions. But yeah, looping Iron Mines comes to mind. Gash and Grey seems good. I assume he's also doing it for Stark Harrenhal. Would seem like another good play. That can be expensive, but Water Gardens seems like it might help there. So I think that's what Kevin's trying to do here with this deck.
Oh, that's great. I love that, Kevin.
I think Jeff just realized what's going on here. And Jeff, I know him, the Greyjoy player here. He loves attrition decks, and he liked playing Stark Harrenhal in the past. And I think it just clicked what can be done here off of King's Landing. And I think he really likes what he sees. So.
Reaction to losing?
Which you would have had to do first?
No.
So I think another intrigue challenge coming in here. Unopposed is blocked with a Green Blood Trader. Hits a Last of the Giants.
Do you have any action?
I don't know how much gold saved on the Martell side. Looks like just 1. But I could be wrong. So we wouldn't have had a Last of the Giants play this turn. You might not have the Varys yet. But Greyjoy player now knows that that Varys wipe is an option in the future, possibly. So he's got to play around that, I guess. So 1 strength power challenge coming in off the Acolyte of the Waves. Bastard of God's Grace just blocking the unopposed. No power to claim. Martell player doesn't have any power yet. And that's going to be it for the Greyjoy player for his challenges. And Bastard of God's Grace stealing some icons off the Priest of the Drowned God. And doing an intrigue challenge with Arya. That goes unopposed, of course. Getting a power for that. Not sure what that event is.
You're done? You have no further action?
Saving 2 gold.
I have 6 of 6. You should be at
8
even now.
Yeah. I was hoping I'd be able to start a card.
Well, don't know so.
So we got Valor flipped on the Martell side into March to the wall on the Greyjoy side. And nobody can be saved because Arya is standing.
I'll go first.
So Greyjoy player is going to choose himself to go first. So maybe he's hoping that the Martell player will march Arya. I don't see that happening.
My plot will go off first.
And March is going to go off first. Aaron Dampere avoiding death.
Exactly. Sure.
I'll march.
And no trigger on Naga's ribs, so Aaron Dampere will stay in the discard pile. And Green Blood Trader, like we thought, gets marched on the other side.
Gain power.
And everyone else dies. And we got a power gain there off the Acolyte of the Waves for the Greyjoy player.
Do you want to put both those in dead pile?
Yeah, why not?
Just double check. We good. Okay.
So he put both copies of Tarl in the dead pile there, using Naga's ribs to basically send the dupe to the dead pile. Which is kind of strange. I'm not sure why you do that unless you don't care about marshalling him out of the dead pile. Or getting him out later with Aaron Dampere, maybe? I'm not sure. Maybe he's not a drowned god. I don't know, but... Or I should know, actually. I had them all up on the screen here. Let's check. Yeah, he's a drowned god.
Hello.
All right, we got Victarion Greyjoy coming in with a dupe. And we have... is it Hagen's daughter? The card that can jump back into shadows when it's killed. On the Greyjoy side. Another great Greyjoy card that's come out recently.
This is plot 3, right?
I think it's over the Martell player for his marshalling. He can get the 2 reduction off Water Gardens at this point.
Yeah, so I just wanted to make sure I didn't get it mixed up.
So while we're waiting for Kevin to marshal, make sure you guys hit subscribe. Slap that like button if you want to see more Game of Thrones. Leave some comments below. We got lots of videos coming up from this series. Recorded 10 games in the Swiss, plus the top 8. So we have Lorenza Sand. And Water Gardens to get a Venomous Blade out there on her. And that puts a poison token on Hagen's daughter.
Future Rob.
Thanks, Kevin, for letting Future Rob know about the poison token. I figured that one out, okay. I've used Venomous Blade before, I know.
Do you have any actions?
No actions.
Sure, roll on face.
And end of the phase, Hagen's daughter goes back to Shadows. Or goes into Shadows, sorry, for the first time.
And she steals the power from me?
No. This is when she dies or like another unique character dies, I can draw cards.
Oh, okay.
That's Obella.
So I think we're setting up a possible march on Victarion here. Is what I see happening.
Yeah, that's military.
And he's going to go with the military with Victarion Greyjoy. Nope, maybe not.
That's fine. You've got
If he kills Lorenza Sand, the Venomous Blade goes back to hand, and he draws a card off for Lorenza Sand. And no Flea Bottom here to strip the icons off Victarion Greyjoy. I think he's okay with that military challenge happening. He'd rather her die so he draws a card versus March next turn.
can't stop that. It's going to be coming back every turn. That's unfortunate. No challenges. It's not worth it.
So the Greyjoy player passes on challenges. And then we have an intrigue challenge here with no claim with Lorenza, who is 3 strength.
Entry.
Opposed?
And no defenders. And he shouldn't be holding out his cards. but they take it anyway. And he gets a Balon Greyjoy off of a Valor turn. That's no good. And Balon goes to the dead pile instead, using Naga's Ribs. Hopefully they catch that. That's unfortunate. So we have a secret schemes happening here for a 2-card draw. And a Blood Orange Grove tossed away due to King's Landing to draw an extra card. Looks like he's digging for something here. And Dominus goes to the Greyjoy player.
I need this here.
So both players discarding for reserve now.
You discard Ashley.
He puts 7-cost Asha in the discard pile.
Okay.
On the other side, we got Arrow Hota, and I'm not sure who the other character is. And we got March to the Wall into Feast for Crows. Feast for Crows makes sense in a Naga's Rib deck. And of course, March getting rid of both characters on the board like we thought would happen. So no characters on the board. This is where Martell Wolf wants to see it. That's what they like to do.
You told me to go first, right?
I did.
Very good.
And Rose Road marshaled out for limited for the Greyjoy player who's going first. We see the Dornish Fiefdoms knelt on the other side to gain some gold. And we have another a Drowned Disciple. What is their shtick? Let's see here. Drowned Disciple. After a character enters play from your dead pile, choose a Drowned God character and have it gain 1 power limit twice per phase. And there's Acolyte of the Waves. And he's going to sit on to 3 gold, which could bring out Hagen's Daughter out of Shadows if he needs to. This looks like another Secret Schemes was played there to draw 3 cards.
I'll put my hand here.
So the Martell player Kevin here has tons of cards in hand and only has 5 reserve right now actually off of Marched. So he's got to do something here with these cards. Looks like he's got another Last of Giants in hand. He's got a Stark Heron Hall in there. Little Desert Scavenger here, looks like coming in. Yep. And 5 for Arion Martell. And Water Gardens is going to help get Venomous Blade in there off Arion, which will kill the Acolyte of the Waves, which will gain a power for the Greyjoy player, I believe, at the end of the phase. And I think they're good there, and they're going to challenges. 1 gold saved on the Martell side, of course, for most likely Flea Bottom. And he spends 2 to bring Hagen's Daughter out of shadows.
Military.
And he's going to do military with her. We got no military icons across the board at this moment, but we do see military icons in the discard pile. Arrow Hotuk could come out of there, knock Hagen's Daughter out of the challenge. And we could see him swing back on a military challenge of his own. And yeah, that's what's going to happen here. Flea Bottom on Arrow Hotuk coming in, knocking Hagen's Daughter out of the challenge.
Okay. That's me.
And that's it for the challenges from the Greyjoy player. Over to the Martell player for his challenges.
They fly over sometimes. They're aerial in that way. You have lots of things in your discard pile, or in your dead pile. Yeah, many of things.
So an intrigue challenge with Arion Martell. I think we just heard he had 10 characters in his dead pile on the Greyjoy side. So that's like 20 to dominance. So the Martell player has probably decided there's no point in trying to win dominance and stop that Feast for Crows. So we got an intrigue challenge through there unopposed. Military coming through unopposed. And Claim's going to be Hagen's Daughter, putting her back in shadows there. Face down with those beautiful pink sleeves that Jeff uses that matches pink House Bolton tokens. And we got Ramsey coming in off Arion. Sacking Hota, getting him out of play, so he's lined up for a future Flea Bottom. And sacking the Acolyte of the Waves across the board, which doesn't die, so it doesn't get the power trigger. Unless that's the wrong character I'm thinking of. Yeah, I think it's the wrong character. So he sacks or discards a Stark Heron Hall on the Martell side to draw a card off King's Landing. Dominance going to the Greyjoy player.
I put it back. And this.
And he's going to get that 2 extra off Feast for Crows. Putting the Greyjoy player at 7, Martell player at 6. Still a tight game with the Greyjoy player. Jeff there, you hear him sighing. Just having trouble trying to build a board. And a whole bunch of flea bottomable characters just get put in the discard pile there. Oh, all 3 Dornish spies are in there now. We see putting those in there off taxation.
After cleaning, I have something for Cornhole. You did. Oh, great.
So fallen from favor on the Martell side, Valar Morghulis. And the Martell player, of course, winning initiative, chooses himself to go first so he can trigger his plot first to get rid of Ramsay Snow out of play so he can play another copy in the future so he doesn't die. And the boards are wiped again. Well, the characters, I mean. The board of characters are wiped. A lot of locations, though. So he plays, using King's Landing, plays Stark Heron Hall out of his discard pile. The Water Garden's reducing the cost of that. And that's going to it's gonna make it really hard here for Jeff to get something in play when it'll most likely die. From that Stark Heron Hall. And we got Arion Martell marshaled out again. So Jeff, I know you're watching this, and I just want to say this is how it feels when people play attrition against you and you're just trying to do your thing. And normally Jeff, the Greyjoy player, likes playing these type of decks and doing this to his opponent. And now he's having it done to himself. So I hope you like the taste of your own medicine here. So he plays an Iron Minds, which I'm sure you wish you saw earlier. And we have a Drowned God's Apostle put into play. He has an action after you win dominance. Kill Drowned God's Apostle to put a non-unique Greyjoy character with permanent cost 3 or lower into play from your dead pile. 3 gold saved on the Martell side. So he's going to trigger the Stark Heron Hall to kill the Drowned God's Apostle. Iron Mines is going to save him. Most likely we're going to see Arion do this challenge here and then maybe bounce into character with a military icon and push through a military challenge and possibly kill. Or we're going to see Fleabottom actually do it first. Which makes sense. Dornish Spy coming in to steal an icon possibly. Takes what power icon away. Comes in on the military challenge. Which seems like it's going to go unopposed. Which will then kill that character, and then leave Arion open to do her challenge, and then possibly jump a character in off Arion to do a third challenge here. And Jeff realizes he's done there, so he just concedes. And congrats to Kevin on the win there. And yeah, more Thrones coming up, so make sure you subscribe. Stay tuned. We'll be back with more shortly. Lots of games recorded from this tournament. I want to thank everyone for donating. If you'd like to donate to support the channel, you can click the link in the description below. Either way, I'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching.